Hello and welcome as we head into the 16th day of November 2017. My name is Derek. Welcome everything you do within your own risk, own reward. Let's start off with a 60-minute time frame on Bitcoin, which established a level of resistance throughout the 13th to the 15th, or 14th rather, at around the 6,600 mark. And when the 15th day began, it broke that mark, and several hours, a little over a day of a move that has brought it up to the high of a little over the 7,300 handle. Since then, we are now on the sixth firm period, 5 hours and 45 minutes, trading within this 18 average, which is barely rising at this stage. The 18 average of highs is already starting to flatten out because it hasn't broken resistance. The 18 average of lows is still rising because it is not really going down much over the last couple of hours, as price action has stayed firmly above the 18 average of lows, but it really needs to get above this point. Decent break above, closer to the 73 handle, and you'd be in the status of looking to break a key resistance level. And when you do such, so many different codes as well, don't be surprised to have a significant leg higher like you did back before. And when we expand this onto a daily chart, I mean all this is, and it's a lot, is a situation in which you came up to this upward trend line, resisted, and then pulled back. But look how fast this manages to rebound. After this update on the 13th, you have a pause day holding the 18 average of lows, congesting the gains, not selling it off, which is the big one there. And then so far after that point, similar situation with a nice green candle up, this time breaking the 18 average of highs. And third or a quarter of the day into the 16th, it is just holding on very low volatility. Breaking above, it's pretty big. I don't see situations too often like this where you're at a very long-term resistance level like such, and it's just ready to pop. And if it does so, that should be some intense movements, to say the least. We take a look at this on a 3-day time frame. Here's a situation of the trend line that started at the beginning of the year's highs in at 1166, and of course up well over 6 times higher since then. Hit these highs again, second hit, third hit, fourth hit, fifth hit, and then a huge number 6. Is it ready to do the 7th hit of this level? And with price action in here, it never came back down to this previous resistance level. But if we take a look at this on a weekly time frame, all these previous times came back down to the 18 average of lows. Therefore, buyers got a very aggressive compared to previous times when the market would have a larger retracement. And a decent retracement has to come. There will be a point where this market will come back down to the 18 average of lows. And there'll even be a time we'll have to break it as well. But for now, if this thing gets above this trend line, this could be one of those wowzer situations of epic and major proportions. And when you joke around about stuff about, you know what, I think over the next 6-7 days, Bitcoin's going to double in price, one would look at you, you're crazy. I mean, back in the day, it did a few times, but it's volatile enough where it might go up 30%. But double, that's crazy. But you're looking for the situations which make it more relevant for happening, say, on a day like in here, June 26th. It wouldn't have made too much sense compared to now. It's a big situation. Let's take a look at some alternate coins and take a look at them on the daily time frame, but they basically have the same pattern. Stage 3. Ethereum. Stage 1 on the downtrend, band flatten out. Stage 2, establish resistance. That's been established in at about the 543 handle. Stage 2, come back to this band, which is where it's in at now. Previous support or resistance is in at about the 43 and change mark. It's also the area where the 18 average of lows is. It's either going to set up the start of a reversal trend, thus we'll see stage 4 come in and a pattern of higher highs and lows to most likely follow after that, or another failed breakout fast move lower. And within the mathematics, we can apply some Fibonacci calculations. The low on here is a 378 basis points. The high is 545. So if this level fails, you'd be looking at a down target at about 0.03. If, of course, this level does not hold. And if this level breaks out, established resistance or major previous established support before was in at around the 67 handle, I'd be looking at that as an area where we'll find some resistance on the break. But it's either establishing the reversal of trend, stage 3 correctionary phase, or it's again a failed breakout. As far as some other coins are concerned, Litecoin, again, same situation. Established resistance is in at about the little over the 10 handle, and back down towards the span. As far as this situation, if it has a failed breakdown, the low is in at about the 678 handle. The high is 1,050, which has a downside target of about the 5 number. It says 517. And if it's able to break above this resistance, I'd be looking, this is not too easy. Well, upside action, and you'd be thinking around 125, but it's really not too easy from this point, because this level is pretty, I think around 125 would be the first level I would be looking towards. Next up is Dash. It's also in stage 3 as well, but it looks a little bit different because of the huge rally that it had. Stage 1, band flatten out. Stage 2, establish resistance way up here. These are wild, wild moves. Insane moves, one might state, but no, they're not insane. Not when you get to know it, they're not. Maybe for the first few days or weeks when you're trading and you're looking at it, it will seem insane, but it becomes normal. Insanity is thinking the market's going to move like you would expect, like a Dow Jones or the Great Britain pound and the US dollar code will move. It ain't going to do that. And insanity's always been known about expecting different results and doing the same thing. Well, if we're expecting this market to be different and do these other kind of trading mechanisms when nothing has really changed, that's insanity. So expect those types of moves. And on a break of this resistance, wowzers. I'm really not going to use any mathematics to calculate down trend targets because I need to have a significant lower high. And that's not, because once you get too high, but if this level does fail, you can, and I don't think it will, you could basically be pointing out of previous resistance in the area of around 250 down to 200, and maybe even piercing below to the 19s. But for now, this market has stage 3. It came back to the 18 average of above highs. A decent sized break above here, but be well below the previous high of a few days ago, is like the area of about 75. So to get there on the 60 handle, that's a gain of about 25-30% just to come up here. And to fall down here to the 18 average of lows, which is around below the 50 mark, you're looking at like a 20% play. So definitely a lot of volatility can be in store for something like this. As far as Monero is concerned, take a look at this on the daily time frame. We can see the exact same pattern as it came back down to the band, and its downside target, if this fails, we got a low of about 1115. We have a high of 2253. So about 720. 700.007. But breaking out above this resistance, you got to think the previous high in here around 35 would be an area that you'd be looking towards. On the weekly chart for this, let's take a quick look. It's having this nice little pattern of all these higher lows with the very volatile push-ups higher. Situation where it took like almost a dozen periods to get the gain of 2 in here. That's just crazy. Price action stabilizing within the 18 average. Definitely, again, a choppy, wild code with an uptrend. So that's basically how it's in place from here. It can definitely go whenever it's ready to, but what's going to be important is for this thing to hold and stay above about the 240 to 250 handle. Let's take a look at the next one, which is a BITTREX. I'm just XVC. Why am I forgetting the coin code? BTC. I mean, I can easily look at a chart. This is against the dollar, by the way, so might as well do this. I can look at a number and I should know it, and then just like moments later I'll forget it. Anyway, dollar chart on the weekly time frame, nice little sideways consolidation amongst this level, but I want to take a look at this on the daily chart for the main actual code itself. You can see in the sideways range, holding and staying above a key level in here could have a good breakout, but as far as the Bitcoin price is concerned, basically just holding in about along this sideways consolidation. You've had a period in which after a nice break on this break of from October, and the consolidation period found a higher low at the previous area which it came back from or resisted from in here. Lots of resistance back in June and September, which is supported. And then a move making a lower high. And now are we in store for a higher low? Wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but we have the formations of the symmetrical triangle coming in play when you encounter this low, this low, this low, and then of course what has now been a slew of lower highs. Let's move on next to ETC, which is Ethereum Classic. It too is in stage number 3 of the correctionary phase. Resistance is established in at about the 370 level, and with the low in at about 130. Brings a downside target of 0.0007, 70,000 satoshi if it goes down there. I think a lot of these alternate coins are going to be making some nice moves higher as we move forward. Of course, the market will do what it needs to do, and for a lot of these codes that I'm long with, I have plans to be buying more on, of course, reduction in price action. Moving on to Strat, I was asked about that earlier, so I'm going to finish the video within this particular code on its daily time frame. And its situation is neutral, sideways action. Very difficult to read because here's a situation where you had a failed break higher that had a fast move lower and is now back within this trading range. So it made this nice higher high, then a lower low. That's normally pretty weak. But because of that situation, this area is the level of resistance compared to here, which should be support on any pull lower. If you see in price action head to the low 40,000s, there's definitely reasons to be concerned for the situation. A lot of these coins, I don't look too much at the fundamentals, really anything at all. In fact, I want to talk about that after I'm done this video, so it'll be a little longer. We have a low here in at 6,000. We have a high in at about 150. Which means key Fibonacci is in at about 20,000 and 43,800. So this is at a key Fibonacci support level. It really hasn't bounced yet towards this point. And anyone buying in and around these lower levels, well, you are still in a positive situation. Generally speaking, it wouldn't be a surprise if this does have some sort of leg higher. I'd be looking at resistance. Look quickly at this at the 100,000 satoshi level. But if there's going to be long-term continued downside action, the next level is 20,000 satoshi. There's a lot of big risk, a lot of big reward within these, and I'm a big part of the component of buying when the price is considered to be very low, and then just looking to sell on these rallies while trying to take advantage of these extreme moves higher that it seems every single code will have. And if I'm in position to have more than a 1 unit bet, as I would call it, 3-4 units or higher, which means I have a decent amount of a bankroll on it, then I'll be looking to sell for these extreme gains. I have a small position on this, basically a 2-unit play on strat right now. But the fact that we can have codes like this, and there's coins that move up and down as they do, the availability to trade them and such, to be able to manage your money with Bitcoin as it is, basically becoming your own banker. We're moving into a major change as far as the world is concerned. And when I look at these coins, if you will, am I supposed to continuously believe day by day, week by week, that the most overvalued, overhyped cryptocurrency, which is that of Bitcoin, is going to continuously outperform all these other alternate coins, especially the ones that are good, like Litecoin? Litecoin is very fun and transferring, at least in comparison to Bitcoin. It's so much more effective, so much more reliable. I had a situation where I made a transfer a few days ago, and it got stuck in the mempool with a lot of other ones too. Took about 4 or 5 days before it actually got credited into the account. And a lot of these other cryptocurrencies are doing so much better. So for myself, I'm about 53% portfolio Bitcoin. This gives me buying power because I have no problem going to 25 or 30%, but at this time I don't want to yet because I realize cheaper prices could be moving in the horizons. Keyword is could, and I do expect as we move on forward that there's a good chance that these alternate coins are going to do well, which is why I'm in position to try to profit take the best that I possibly can. But it's an amazing situation again that stuff like this is able to go through. And when I look at stuff like the Tulip Mania, or any type of bubble, as you say. And I want to do a video on the Nasdaq, and I'll quickly tell you what I want to cover as far as the Nasdaq is concerned. But before we do that, let's take a look at this on the 2-week chart. So here's a situation where the market goes straight up, little bit of sideways consolidation, and then it has went straight up. The move differential of price move from here to here is a lot larger. When looking at this on a logarithmic chart from here to here. Some of the things I'm looking on tops, notice this volume in here, and major size moves to complete it. Let's move this on to the Nasdaq now. I'll take this on the quarterly chart maybe, or 4-month chart even. with the Nasdaq, it had a breakout in 1990 and it shot straight up. And if you look at the move going from here to here compared to here, that was a tremendous size move. Now I don't got volume on here, but you see the larger size green candles that move it higher. And now when we take a look at this, to me, this is no longer a dot-com bubble. Not in my book. It's a dot-com correction. Because a bubble, to me, is something that indicates high prices that you're just not going to see again. At least not for a long, long time. And when we look at this on a quarterly time frame, it had one move below the 18 average of lows. So a decent sized correction through price. That's normal for markets. But the second time, back in 2008, when it came down to a correctionary move, a spot where it was supposed to bear market this baby, it didn't do so. It didn't resist the 18 average in 2010 when it came towards it. Instead, it got by this resistance, made a move to previous high, resisted that for a short period, and is starting to break out. So I don't see the comparisons, but I think just people just want to say that it's a bubble. And at some point, I think Bitcoin will become that. But you got to be real and state when and why. That's a big one. Why? Because you might say Bitcoin is a bubble because it's a Ponzi scheme, and well, I don't understand really any major Ponzi scheme involved within such other than miscellaneous monetary systems that are somewhat irrelevant. But as far as how this system is in place compared to all world fiat currencies, well, you're playing a Ponzi scheme within such there. And as far as the actual crypto game having a bubble, I think at some point maybe it will. But I don't see it happening anytime in the near future. There is still a large amount of people getting into the cryptocurrency phase as far as what I'm seeing. So because of such, I think that this will have some decent legs higher. I've talked about the silver to Bitcoin ratio because silver has been manipulated so much towards the downside, kept exactly as we see, sideways within right now at the 17 mark. But this just symbolizes what they do to silver. They just smash it down. Any little bit of an up move, just bring her back down again and just keep it at as basically as cheap as I think that they can. It's almost it's a safe investment in my mind because you buy it, you buy the physical commodity, you're really almost insured to a degree that it's not going to have a major destruction in value, where it's going to stay at least within a decent number. The cost of mining silver and all that stuff, it's unsustainable. And I think that the movement of the way that they have these markets in control is not sustainable as well, but it can be sustained, I think, for a decent amount of time. I think what's going to kill the actual trading game as it is the Bitcoin market, but more so when you actually notice this thing being traded on the exchange. That I think as the ratio climbs way out of proportion with Bitcoin, this goes probably well over 1,000 to 1. And at $17, you would need $17,000 Bitcoin prices to get to 1,000. That if these numbers get out ahead, it just would become a no-brainer situation where you would just see silver pumping like no other, and people like myself just buying like hands over fist the amount of physical silver. If this type of game remains such with a non-free market, and look at the result of such over this daily time frame and this weekly time frame. And then, of course, with Bitcoin and its free market, well, enough said. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day.